tried reading it at some, and I didn't really get to finish it. And I was thinking, why not? Why not read it now? It is the Sabbath, the seventh day. It has begun in Denmark, and it's nice. It seems to go in the right direction of my fungus, So seems like my issues are going downhill for them. So, but I guess that seems to be still a long way, and I have to, eat special things, whatever. I just can't eat sugary things. But anyway, that's interesting to have this Catholic thing up there. Oh well. And apparently 6. Oh well. The Apology of Aristides, the philosopher, so-called Saint Aristides, the philosopher of Athens, Apology. It's again, you have to be careful in regards to the saints thing. I don't know the guy and all that. So, of course, is it the Roman Catholic Church that have sainted him, or how is, I don't know. Anyway, the Apology of Aristides, or the philosopher, translated from the Syriac version by DMK, B Science BD Assistance to the Professor of Semitic Language in the University of Edinburgh. Editors note the Apology of Aristides mentioned by Eusebius, so-called Saint Jerome. Just in regards of saint and all that. Anyway, and other ancient writers. You see the Roman Catholic saint, these different people that just are, like Ignatius Loyola. You have to be kidding me. How diabolical? Of course it is diabolical, but some of these people that they have sainted, that it's just utter criminals. Working for the devil. Anyway, of course, the ones that actually are the saints are those killed by the Roman Catholic Church. That they perceive as heretics, right? Anyway, and without the shedding of blood of heretics, there's no salvation, right? There's some, they just turn everything upside down. Go read the Jesuit Oath if you want to have more information on that. The nation that I've been brought up, it mentions this twice, if I remember correctly. So, at least twice. So, mentioned by Eusebius, Saint Jerome, and other ancient writers, and said to have been the inspiration for the great work of Saint Justin Martyr. And that was the guy that also said that if you meet someone that says they're going directly to heaven, don't even believe they're Christians, directly to heaven doctrine that is all over the world, it seems, The Mohammedans believe they can go to heaven, the Roman Catholics believe, either heaven or purgatory, and a lot of Protestants are falling for this as well, that they are going directly to heaven when they die. Really? Really? Anyway, I thought we were sleeping in the dirt, until the resurrection, when our Messiah, our Rabbi, our Master, our Lord actually resurrects us, like he was in Sheol, so I would expect that we are going to Sheol as well, sleeping until the resurrection. Anyway, that's the first resurrection and the second resurrection and all that. But, Justin Martyr has an interesting view on that, and one can go and read him in regards to that doctrine. Anyway, it was considered lost until the late 19th century. So the great works of Saint Justin Martyr was considered lost until the late 19th century, when an Aramean fragment was discovered. What are we talking about? Is it the Apology of Aristides or the Justin Martyr? Let's see. The Apology of Aristides, mentioned by Eusebius, Saint Jerome, and other ancient writers, and said to have been the inspiration for the great works of Saint Justin Martyr. Was considered lost until the late 19th century, when an Armenian. So that's in regards to the Apology of Aristides. They were considered lost when an Armenian fragment was discovered. Then in 1889, the full text in Syriac translation was found in the library of Saint Catharines in the Sinai. Ironically, it was then realized that the work had never been lost at all. A slightly shortened version of it had been preserved in the well-known life of Saint Balaam of India. by Saint John of Damascus. Since and we have a lot of writings out there, documents that is not translated into English yet. So there might be some really good gold nuggets out there. Since it's a huge amount of resources that we actually have. Now we have lost a lot of resources. We have lost a lot of documents and all that, but we also still have a huge amount of material. Anyway, since the numerous references to Greek gods would have made little impact on an Indian audience, one may have assumed that Saint John, writing for a Greek readership which would have founded the enunciation of Vedic or Buddhist deities equally meaningless, decided to insert the apology of Aristides as a sort of rough equivalent of whatever Balaam actually preached to the Brahmins. And yet the Indians are still running around with all the pagan bullshit, It's just, but apparently the Apostle John, according to our, went to India and set up 7 churches. But anyway, he's also said to have been martyred by I think it was a Brahmin that put according to the, what we have, put a spear through him. There was another guy of the 12 apostles that apparently went more north of India and all that. But anyway, all of them apparently, as far as I know, died a martyr death, except John, who was in Ephesus. Now, actually, also Philip also seemed to have died in Asia. Sorry, yeah, Asia. In the area of Asia. That's the area that rejected Paulus, the Roman Pharisee Paulus. But of course, the Apostle John was there, and the Apostle Philip was there, and probably a lot of others. So anyway, Saint Aristides delivered the apology around the year 125 when Hadrian visited Athens. Eusebius HE 43. His memory is kept by the church on 31 August. Since the Greek version found in Balaam and Jehoshaphat is widely available online, we here give the longer version preserved in Syriac. Note that there are a number of Syrianisms, is this version culturally rather than theological, such as the reference to Hades as Sheol. Well, that's actually not a Syrian thing, it's a biblical thing, because Sheol is in Hebrew, Sheol, That's Hades in Greek. And of course, that would be the realm of the dead, or the place of the dead, or some call it the underworld. I don't know in regards to the underworld, but I do get the idea of it, It is the place where Yeshua went to 3 days and 3 nights, before getting resurrected. Anyway, in Readington is Saint Paromia's library, whatever. Anyway. Hadrian the king on behalf of reverence for God. I guess Hadrian, I think, was a Roman Caesar. You do it in some sense, and you get, the more standardized it becomes in some sense. The same thing with the Word of God. There's a lot of new things in regards to the Bible, but as more as you grow, you get more puzzle pieces placed where you just, it becomes the norm. It becomes the standard. It becomes the, what shall we say, standardized, and it's true. It's just anyway. It's just it becomes part of you. The truth becomes part of you. It's anyway. It's either Marcianus or Marcianus, Aristides, and Athenian philosopher. Caesar. Apparently these of course would be the Was that the sixth head? I think it was the sixth. Five have been, and one is. One is to come for a little while. That would be the dukes, as far as I understand it. And then the eight after the dukes was the is the beast, and is one of the seven heads, which is the sixth head, and that's the beast itself. And of course, that's the papacy. Anyway, that's another story for itself, I guess. And the earth, and heaven is plural in Hebrew, and the earth and the sea. So I do wonder in regards of if they actually translated from Aramaic, and Aramaic is very close to Hebrew. I wonder if that might actually have been a plural word that they just translated singular. Anyway, and the heaven and the earth and the seas, and had surveyed the sun and the rest of creation. I marveled at the beauty of the world, and I perceived that the world and all that is therein are moved by the power of another. And I understood that he who moves them is God, who is hidden in them and veiled by them. Well, that sounds a little like pantheism in some sense. But anyway, it's not, God is not his creator. We're not allowed to worship the creator. If we believe that God is the creator itself, we are worshiping Satan. If we worship a tree, we're worshiping Satan. If we worship an idol, we're worshiping Satan. Or an image, or a man, or whatever. Except him being God. And of course, there's one single man that was God, that was Yeshua. And anyway, but he was from above and we are from below. So there's a good amount of difference in regards to that. Anyway, let's get back to it. So he who moves them is God, who is hidden in them and veiled by them. The creator, of course, is the one that we need to worship, not his creation that he created. Do you get it? The designer that designed the design. We're to worship the designer, not the design that he designed. It's just doesn't it make sense? Anyway, but I guess creator or maker. We're to worship the maker, not the thing that the maker made. Right? Okay. Anyway, but that I should make search concerning this same mover of all as to what is his nature, for it seems to me he is indeed unsearchable in his nature. And that I should argue as to the constancy of his government, so as to grasp it fully. This is a vain effort for me, for it is not possible that a man should fully comprehend it. I say, however, concerning this mover of the world, that he is God of all, who made all things for the sake of mankind. And it seems to me that this is reasonable, that one should fear God and should not oppress man. We have problems with regards to the connection. Apparently, I thought it would. I'm running 3G, but anyway, I'll just let it run, and see how it goes. I say then that God is not born, not made, and the thing is 4G as if you check the 4G and 3G in regards to radiation, 3G has a lot less of radiation than 4G. 4G is just explosive, in regards of going haywire on the meter. 3G is actually the lowest of, even 2G is higher than 3G apparently in regards to the instrument that I've tested. It's incredible. Anyway, I don't know why, but that's just how it is. I say that, so in regards of health, 3G is better than 4G, and that's why I'm usually running 3G. Anyway, I say then, and you can also feel the difference actually, because it has an effect on you. So a negative effect on you when you run 4G. I say then that God is not born, not made, and ever abiding nature without beginning and without end. Well, you have the begottens, you have the begotten God and the not begotten God, You have two. You have Jehovah, and then you have, Father, and then you have Jehovah the Son, who is begotten from, before creation and all that. And of course, also begotten in the world, actually. But anyway, okay. I say then that God is not born, not made, an ever abiding nature without beginning and without end, immortal, perfect, and incomprehensible. And well, again, you have to, it's just Yeshua was there in flesh, so I don't know, whatever. Anything, but all things are in need of Him. He would still be, but we wouldn't. And then I say that He is without beginning. This means that everything which has beginning has also an end, and that which has an end may be brought to an end. He has and all that, but we all have our issues here and there, but anyway, He has no name for everything which has a name, is kindred to things created. Neither male nor female. Well, again, I can't remember if this guy is actually a Christian or not, but I think he has. It's not female. Of course, you have the pagan trinity, which you have the female aspect. But that's a whole nother train to follow or whatever. What is it called? I can't remember. You have a tree and you have a branch. That's a whole nother branch. There we go. He's neither male nor female. Well, Yeshua was male. The heavens there we go with the plural. That's nice. The heavens do not limit Him, but the heavens, and plural again with the heavens. Nice. I wonder that probably the beginning would also probably have been plural. And all things, visible and invisible, received their bounds from Him. Adversary. Yeah, I'm not totally in agreement with these. Anyway, wrath and indignation He possesses not. Well, wrath He does, but He hates sin. Indignation, I'm not sure what that word is, but I think this guy gets some things wrong for sure. But still there's the anger aroused by some perceived of, well, is God not found to be angered in the Old Testament? So-called Old Testament, I think He was, in the Torah, in regards to the first 5 books of Moses, He was angry. He was really angry at the Israelites when they made this golden calf, right? And Moses comes down and, destroys the first, again, that's, it seems like He's taking a lot of the personality out of God here in regards of, because God hates sin, and thereby, if God hates sin, that's transgression of His law. To show that we love Him, we should keep His commandments, right? Anyway, in any case, wrath and indignation He possesses not, for there is nothing which is able to stand against Him. Ignorance and forgetfulness are not in His nature, for He is altogether wisdom and understanding, and in Him stands fast all that exists. He requires not sacrifice and libatation. By the way, libatation in regard of offering drinks. Like the Romans. And I guess also in regards of the Old Testament, so-called Old. Well, you give a drink offering to a god. Be it demons or I think there's drink offerings as well in regards of Jehovah. I think that was something. My memory is not that good at the moment in regards of that, but anyway, a libatation is, you can, if you see Roman movies and all that, they will give some wine, for example, to this bullshit god of theirs and whatever. Anyway, not even one of things visible. He requires not aught from any, but all living creatures stand in need of Him. Number 2. Since then we have addressed you concerning God, so far as our discourse can bear upon him, let us now come to the race of men, that we may know which of them participate in the truth, of which we have spoken, and which of them go astray from it. This is clear to you, O king, that there are, the Roman king, okay? Roman king. O king, that there are 4 classes of men in this world: barbarians, and Greeks, Jews, and Christians. The barbarians, I would guess that's probably my people. The barbarians indeed trace the origin of their kind of religion from Kronos and from Rhea. Oh, I've actually heard Rhea is actually said to be Inanna, if I remember correctly, in regards to the 2 Babylons. And that would be Easter. I'm not sure about Kronos. Oh yeah, Kronos, wasn't it? There's something in regards to the father, maybe? And you have apparently a son-wife relationship as well, it seems. Anyway, whatever. And from Rhea, and there's so many. I haven't really totally, there's a lot of things going out in but you can see the images of this triad pagan trinity. And you just go back to Sumeria, which is actually Shinar, in regards to Shinar, the first place with civilization after the flood. That would be Shinaria. Yeah, they call it Sumeria, And apparently they say it should have been with Shumeria. But apparently they misspelled it, so now they just call it Sumeria, without the H. H. And of course, in regards to Bible, it's Shinar or Shinaria. Anyway, but they don't want to use biblical names, I guess. And so anyway, of religion from Kronos and from Rhea and their other gods. The Greeks, however, from Helenus, who is said to be sprung from Zeus, and by Helenus there was born Aeolus and Eutos, and there were others descended from Inachos and Phoroneus, and lastly from the Egyptian Danaus, and from Cadmos, and from Dionysus, and I can't remember. There's a lot of names, and in regards to the 2 Babylons, he talks about a lot of these different names, and I guess it's a little kind like the 2 Babylons is, I guess, the Christian book, where in regards of unveiling Isis is in regards of the Europe. No, what was called the United Nation, the Roman United Nations, and Lucifer Trust and all that, releasing books and all that. The occult, New World bullshit and all that. And so-called New World. It's a poop doom. It's called poop doom. The great poop doom that we are going to enter again, because people don't want, it's I guess prophecy has to be fulfilled, right? And the so-called New World Order is the old world order on steroids, pretty much. And that would be the Roman emperor, would be the head of it all. Anyway, the Jews again trace the origin of their race from Abraham, who begat Isaac, of whom was born Jacob, and he begat 12 sons who migrated from Syria to Egypt. I guess he's talking about Abraham going from Syria to Egypt or something like that. Let's see here. Did Abraham actually? No, that was actually Jacob that went from no, okay, sorry, it's Jacob he's talking about, okay. And he begat 12 sons who migrated from Syria to Egypt. Well, they came from, the area, okay. That because Jacob, of course, went back, and the angel of Jehovah was with him, and so forth. Anyway, and there they called the nation of the Hebrews by him who made their laws, and at length they were named Jews. The Christians then trace the beginning of their religion from Yeshua the Messiah, and he is named the Son of God Most High. And it is said that God came down from heaven. Well, heavens, plural probably. But anyway, it is said that God came down from the heavens. Yeah, he was sent by Jehovah, his Father, from the heavens into the... Anyway, and from a Hebrew virgin assumed and clothed himself with flesh, and the Son of God lived in a daughter of man. This is taught in the gospel, the good news, as it is called, which a short time was preached among them. And you also, if you will read therein, may perceive the power which belongs to it. This Jesus then was born of the race of the Hebrews, and he had 12 disciples in order that the purpose of his incarnation might in time be accomplished. But he himself was pierced by the Jews. Yeah. And he died and was buried, and they say that after 3 days he rose and ascended to heaven. Um, well, when was this actually from? When was it from in regards of age? Let's see, 2 seconds. Does it have a date? Oh yeah, deliver the apology around 125 AD. That's the beginning of the 2nd century. That's pretty, it's not that's not that far from the events. Anyway, thereupon these 12 disciples went forth throughout the known parts of the world and kept showing his greatness with all modesty and uprightness. And hence all those of the present day who believe that preaching are called Christians, and they are become famous. Already in the 125 apparently. So the Christians, of course, means anointed ones, pretty much. It comes from the word Messiah in Hebrew, the Mashiach. And Mashiach, as I understand it, means anointed. It's another form for, it's just anointed, So the Christians are just called the anointed ones, So when people say that that's a problematic in regards of Christian, the word and all that, you just have to see what it actually just means, and it just means anointed ones in Greek, I think it was Greek at least. Instead of the Hebrew in regards of anyway, whatever. So then there are, as I said above, 4 classes of men: barbarians and Greeks, Jews and Christians. Moreover, the wind is obedient to God, and fire to the angels, the water also to the demons, and the earth to the sons of men. Possible inserted by mistake into one of the early manuscripts. Okay, he has some. It seems like he has some ideas that is not biblical. But anyway, it's just you have to discern what is you have to discern when you read, but you have to do that with everything you read, pretty much. And that includes the Bible, because actually the wolf in sheep clothing that sows the poisonous seeds might actually be found in the Bible. Anyway, and he's leading a lot of people astray into utter lawlessness. Anyway, Yeshua had warned us about the leaven of the Pharisees, right? Anyway, that's another topic. Of course, I'm thinking in regards of, Paul or Paulus or Shaul. And you can go into 2 Timothy 1:15. And after that, after you read Paul's own words, you can go to Revelation 2:2 and see what Yeshua talks about. Anyway, that's the same area that pretty much rejected Paulus. So Yeshua is writing to 7 congregations in Asia Minor. So you see, the people in Asia Minor didn't leave Jesus or Yeshua, but they rejected Paul as an apostle. And I think they got that right. Anyway, I think we have lost a lot of information from, sadly. But you can still, a little pieces here and there, we have lost a huge amount of material, but we still have a lot of material, even with all the persecution and killing and burning of documents and all that. We still have a good amount of things that we can, and we have the Bible, we have the Word of God to help us as well, to guide us in the right direction and fill in the holes. Anyway, number 3, let us begin then with the barbarians and go on to the rest of the nations, one after another, that we may see which of them holds the truth as to God and which of them hold error. The barbarians then, as they did not apprehend God, went astray among the elements and began to worship things created instead of their creator. Yeah, and that's not good. And that's worshipping the devil. And for this end, they made images and shut them up in shrines, and lo, well, we still do it. Just look at the Roman Catholics or the Orthodox. They call themselves Christians, and they do these wicked abominations, You have to be kidding me. They believe, the Orthodox believes that in the icon and all that the Holy Spirit is in the icon. You have to be kidding me. And of course you have the Mary bullshit of, Roman Catholicism. And it's just, we could go on and on and on with that. Yeah, it's just utter nonsense. And idolatry and worshipping the snake. Anyway, and doing it in the name of Christ, in the name of Christianity. Anyway, so they worship them, guarding them the while with much care, lest their gods be stolen by robbers. And the barbarians did not observe that that which act as God is greater than that which is guarded, and that everyone who creates is greater than that which is created. If it be then that their gods are too feeble to see to their own safety, how will they take thought for the safety of man? That's incredible. How could man ever, conceive these bullshit ideas of worshiping something that is made by the hands of men? That's just incredible. I have to be kidding me. Hearing these stories of pagans doing this and that, it's incredible. How could they fall for that bullshit, Anyway, how will they take thought for the safety of men? Great then is the error into which the barbarians wandered in worshipping lifeless images which can do nothing to help them. And I am led to wonder, O king of their philosophers, how that even they went astray, and gave the name of gods to images which are made in honor of the elements, and that their sages did not perceive that the elements also are dissoluble and perishable. For if a small part of an element is dissolved or destroyed, the whole of it may be dissolved or destroyed. If then the element themselves are dissolved and destroyed and forced to be subject to another that is more stubborn than they, and if they are not in their nature gods, why, forsooth, do they call the images, I don't know, in regards to forsooth, why, forsooth, do they call the images which are made in their honor God? Question mark. Great then is the error which the philosophers among them have brought upon their fellow followers. The pagan priest, I guess. Anyway, number 4. Roman number again. Hate Roman numbers. I hate every, all these Roman bullshit things. I just hate it, This is incredible how much many how many that actually uses, when you see there's Roman numbers in something, you just a discernment thing here, because, why would you use Roman numbers? If you're a Protestant, why would you use Roman numbers? If you're a Christian, why would you use Roman numbers, and then yet you see using Roman numbers. I was like, why, we have English, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Danish, whatever. Anyway, so, number 4, let us turn now, O king, to the elements in themselves, that we may make clear in regard to them that they are not gods, but a created thing, liable to ruin and change, which is of the same nature as man. Whereas God is imperishable and unvarying and invisible, while yet he sees and overrules and transforms all things. Those then who believe concerning the earth that it is a god have hitherto deceived themselves. Okay, I'm in agreement with regards of, so I'm not sure how he, then in the beginning, how he talks about that God is in everything, because that doesn't seem to be the case that he thinks, Those then who believe concerning the earth that it is a god have hitherto deceived themselves. Amen. They have, because that's the creation. We're not to worship the creation, but the creator who created it. Do you get it? Do you get it? We don't want to worship Satan. Either we worship God or we worship Satan. That's two choices. That's the broad way that leads to destruction. That's the road of Satan. That's the big candy store of Satan. He has many, many flavors, and he doesn't really care if you mix it together, as long as you don't go out of his candy store, okay? Anyway, and leave his broad road that leads to destruction. So, yeah, we want to be on the narrow road of God. Anyway, since it is furrowed and set with plants and trenched, and it takes in the filthy refuse of men and beasts and cattle, and at times it becomes unfruitful, for if it be burned to ashes, it becomes devoid of life. For nothing germinates from an earthen jar, and besides, if water be collected upon it, it is dissolved together with its products. And lo, it is trodden under foot of men and beasts, and receives the blood of the slain, and it is stuck open and filled with the dead, and becomes a tomb for corpses. But it is impossible that a nature which is holy and worthy and blessed and immortal should allow of any one of these things, and hence it appears to us that the earth is not a god, but a creation of God. Amen. Creation is not to be worshipped. The Creator is to be worshipped. Yep. The Creator who created creation, you go to the Creator, not creation, And, Satan couldn't care if you worship a tree or a stone or, an image or an idol or whatever. He doesn't care. As long as you're worshiping something else than God, you are worshiping Satan. You are worshiping the snake, the dragon, the liar, the deceiver, the murderer, and so forward. Anyway, who wants to be like God? He wants to be like God. Is it a surprise that the Antichrist, set himself up with all the titles of God himself and think himself fathers of kings and princes and all that? In regards to the triune tyrant, the Roman tyrant, the Roman Caesar, the Roman emperor, the Roman Caesar, the Roman king, the Pontifex Maximus, the Roman Pontifex Maximus, which is the high pagan priest. So why would we ever follow him, as Christians? Why would we ever, heed his words? Of course we shouldn't heed his words. He's the Antichrist. He's representing the beast of the number 666. The very arch enemy of Christ. Anyway, let's go on. In the same way, again, those erred who believe the waters to be gods. For the waters were created for the use of man, and are put under his rule in many ways, for they suffer change and emit impurity, and are destroyed and lose their nature while they are boiled into many substances. And they take colors which do not belong. To them they also congealed by frost, and are mingled and permeated with the filth of men and beasts, and with the blood of the slain. And being checked by skilled workmen through the restraint of aqueducts, they flow and are diverted against their inclination, and come into gardens and other places, in order that they may be collected and issue forth as a means of fertility for man, and that they may cleanse away every impurity and fulfill the service of man, service man requires from them. Wherefore it is impossible that the water should be a god, but they are a work of God and a part of the world. Yeah, well, they are, absolutely. In like manner also they who believe that fire is a god err to no slight extent, for it too was created for the service of men, and is subject to them in many ways, in the preparation of meats, and as a means of casting metals, and for other ends whereof your majesty is aware. At the same time it is quenched and extinguished in many ways. Again, they also erred who believe the motion of the winds to be a god. For it is well known to us that those winds are under the dominion of another. At times their motion increases, and at times it fails and ceases at the command of him who controls them. For they were created by God for the sake of man, in order to supply the necessity of trees and fruits and seeds, and to bring over the sea ships which convey for men necessaries and goods from places where they are found to places where they are not found, and to govern the quarters of the world. And as for itself, at times it increases and again abates, and in one place brings help, and in another case disaster, at the bidding of him who rules it. And mankind too are able by known means to confine and keep it in check, in order that it may fulfill for them the service that required from it, and of itself it has not any authority at all. And hence it is impossible that the winds should be called gods, but rather a thing made by God. Number 6. So also they erred who believe that the sun is a god. For we see, and I guess this is a very important thing in regards to the sun, because sun worship is, solar deity worship bullshit and all that is something that is really, really something that people are really into, and even in our days, it's just hidden in front of our, well, it's actually everywhere it seems, the symbols, the bullshit, the cookie bullshit of the Roman Catholics, and their sunburst around the cookie, and the Sunday thing in regards to the venerated solar deity of Sol Invictus, and all these, whatever. Christ Mass in regards to the birth of the solar deity, and and so forward it goes. And we have Easter as well, but that's of course in regards to, I guess, the wife, and that might actually, yeah, anyway, whatever. So let's see. Let's not go too far on that trail, and there's a lot of things that I still need to research on those parts. But I must say I'm really not. The problem is the symbols. When you look at all these pagan symbols, they apparently tend to imprint themselves in my, in my mind or something like that. And I don't want this pagan bullshit. I don't want to be affected by it and all that. But trying to figure out what is actually going on in the world in regards to paganism, right? All roads leads to Rome. That's just what you need to know. All roads leads to Rome. That's the whore, that's the harlot of Revelation, And she's sitting on the beast, the authority of the beast. And of course, the beast gets its authority from Satan himself. The dominion, the authority, the dominion and authority and rule is given by Satan, who is still pretty much ruler of this world, Now, of course, we still have Jehovah, that is the supreme, ruler over everything and anything and all that. But overall, we still have Satan ruling the world. But of course, Jehovah can overrule Satan, So it's an interesting thing to see how Satan works, and yet God seems to outsmart the devil, So it's just it's very interesting to see how these two flows together. The devil does something, and yet God is using it for his own means, and whatever. It's just interesting to see these two parallel. Anyway, where the devil have an idea, and yet God is outsmarting the devil and using it for So number 6. So also they err who believe that the Son is a God. For we see that is moved by the compulsion of another, and revolves and makes its journey, and proceeds from sign to sign, rising and setting every day, so as to give warmth for the growth of plants and trees, and to bring forth into the air wherewith it sunlight is mingled every growing thing which is upon the earth. And by the way, the sun was made on the 4th day of creation, so it was actually made after the earth. Of course. Anyway, that's another thing. By regards of paganism, the pagan trinity is in regards of the moon, the sun, and Easter. Oh, sorry, the Venus. So you have the moon, and you have maybe it should actually be moon, Venus, and the sun. You see different. The pictures. There are so many pictures with this pagan trinity, and yet they want to talk about every single other thing in regards of every other single god out there, instead of actually in regards to this pagan trinity, which is clearly on so many images from Sumeria and Assyria and Babylonia and all the the rest. It was Akkadians and all that. You have so many pictures in regards to these clay rolls or in the stones itself and all that have survived and all that. And you just see this trinity, pagan trinity of pagan bullshit and all that. And it's interesting that Mary is called the Queen of Heaven. Isn't it interesting? Because that's exactly what the Venus thing is, the Venus god is, named for. Inanna, or Easter, Inanna is the Queen of Heaven, Going back to Sumeria, which is Shinar, which is the first place in regards of civilization. We're already straying away just after the worldwide flood, and we're already straying away. And they even know about the worldwide flood, because we have stories over the whole world in regards to the worldwide flood. As I understand, we have over 100 flood stories from all over the world. Maybe it was because they were divided at the Tower of Babel, by Jehovah, and they took some of the things with them, So you have different variations of the stories and all that, but you still have some things that are familiar from one story to another. It's very interesting. Anyway, so they still knew about the worldwide flood. Now, of course, it seems like Satan had, as usual, tried to twist things a little here and a little there, so the stories are a little different and all that, and time works for Satan. But yeah. But that's another. Already at the Tower of Babel or at Shinar, it seems like that people were going astray, and they even knew about the flood. You have to be kidding me! And Shem is alive, like if Shem, the son of Noah, is alive 502 years after the flood, pretty much. 98 years before the flood, and then I guess we have a year in regards to the flood. So maybe that would be then 401 year after the flood that he is alive. Anyone could have gone to him and talked to him, We don't know where he actually lived, after the flood, but, it should be possible that they probably knew where he was, right? And living 501 years, that's a long time, right? And he could just tell them in regards to the flood, and apparently it seems like people didn't care, apparently. I don't know. I don't understand. People are just evil. We're just totally evil. We have to understand that we have a wicked nature, and we need to turn around. We need to turn to God for instructions, because we have a way of straying away from Him on so many occasions. The whole world goes pagan pretty much, and it chooses Abraham or Avram. And he's later called Abraham. He chooses Abraham. The rest of the people seem to have gone totally nutcase in regards of following demons. That's just incredible. How wicked are we? I don't understand it. And it seems like some of the sources actually talks about that we actually had writings from before the flood. It's just interesting that they probably had a lot of course, I don't know how many actually could read at that point, but it's just incredible, I guess, it's just bullshit, probably the priest that begins to lie or something like that, and then the people just follow along because maybe they can't read or whatever, and they just let it, I don't know, but it's just disgusting how wicked we are. Anyway, and to bring forth into the air wherewith it's, let's see here. So, rising and setting every day, so as to give warmth for the growth of plants and trees, and to bring forth into the air wherewith its sunlight is mingled every growing thing which is upon the earth, and to it there belongs by comparison the part in common with the rest of the stars in its course. And though it is one in its nature, it is associated with many parts for the supply of the needs of men, and that not according to its own will, rather according to the will of him who rules it. And hence it is impossible that the sun should be a god, but the work of God, and in like manner also the moon and the stars. Amen. It's God who created all these things, Stop worshiping the creation, the idols and cookies and icons and all that bull. Burn it! Just make a good bonfire and burn it. I'm not sure the bonfire is the best word to actually use. But just make a good fire and burn it all, All those crabby statues and icons and all that. Oh yeah, but they are 500 or 1,000 years old or whatever, and they are really precious and all that. Burn it. Burn it! Just what? They're worthless, utterly bullshit. People are worshipping these things. Burn it, burn it, just make a good bonfire. Just get it away, Who cares? It's just incredible. We have to have some love for our brothers and sisters in this world. And it's not very loving to let them have all this worship of these bullshit. Anyway, the people that see should help those that don't see, It's just, that's another trail in regards to Martin Luther. It's very sad, in regards of how his argument, we shouldn't go so fast in regards of the weak and all. What other bullshit, what other nonsense. If you, as a professor, as an educated man and all that, knows that the Bible is against this, you stand on it. You just don't compromise just because, because of the weak and all that. Oh, give me a break. Oh, what other bullshit, what other nonsense, Anyway, and of course, Andreas Karlstadt apparently got kicked out of Wittenberg. And apparently thanks to Luther, it seems, Anyway, but of course no one knows about anything in regards to Andreas Karlstadt, right? And if they know anything about him, it's in regards of slanderous things from the Lutherans in regards of Andreas. Anyway, that's another topic. I'm not saying that everything that Martin Luther did was, but he really had that was some things that really, really, they all had issues, and we have to remember that this is the beginning of coming out of the Dark Ages, or the Dark Age in regards of Roman Catholicism. People are waking up to the truth, and rejecting the Antichrist, which now we're running back to. Apparently, people want to go back to the Dark Ages, If that is what you want, I can't stand with you on that, That is utterly outrageous. We have been served on the platter of the truth. We are able to read the Bible. And do any one of you care about that? No, we want to see something in the television or this and that, right? We don't want to waste our time to read the Bible, You have to be kidding me, It's just incredible. Anyway, it's just, you want to see the Roman circus on the television, right? All that sport bullshit and all that. And the Roman theater, right? All these series and movies and all that bullshit, which has a lot of pagan, satanic crap in it and all that. Oh, you want to do that, right? Oh, play computer games, right? Waste your whole entire life on these vanities and empty air, Instead of actually reading the Bible and figuring out what is actually going on in the world, it's pretty interesting to see that a book can actually prophesy thousands and thousands of years in advance before it happens. Oh yeah, just go read the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. You'll see what is laid out and what has been fulfilled and what is still ongoing and where we are in history and all of that. So. Anyway, it's just incredible. Yeah, but then it was, the Bible is just a book about fairy stories and all that. Really? So that's why it's just laying out thousands and thousands of years in advance, and all of the things are coming to fulfillment, Oh yeah, it's just a book of fairy tale. Oh really? Yeah, okay. I think you lost sanity. I think it's kind of lunacy, or solacy that you have gone into at this point, If that is what you believe, I think you are outrageous, ignorant of the things, It's just full of bullshit, Full of crap, and volcanoes spewing with utter nonsense. Anyway, so we have number 7 here. And those who believe of the men of the past that some of them were gods, they too were much mistaken. For as you yourself allow, O king, man is constituted of the 4 elements and of a soul and a spirit. I'm not sure how that, again, that seems a little bob, man is made from the earth, according to the Bible. But anyway, man is, the thing is, you use what you have been given of coins, and some are getting more coins than others. The question is, are we using the coins? That's the thing, right? Some have 5 coins, some have 10 coins, some have 20 coins, some have only 1 coin. The thing is, we need to use those coins, Whatever has been given to us, let us use it, We shouldn't hide the coins away, We should use them. So, again, So, man is constituted of the 4 elements and of a soul and a spirit. Well, we have a soul and a spirit, that's true. Well, actually, as far as I know, we consider of 3 things, pretty much. We have spirit, the spirit that, in regards to breath, pretty much. And anyway, the spirit, and then we have the soul, and then we have the body, And, pretty much when the spirit leaves the body decomposes and the soul sleeps in Sheol, awaiting resurrection and all that. Any case, so, the spirit goes back to God, the soul sleeps in Sheol, and the body decomposes, pretty much. Anyway, and then we are awaiting the resurrection. There's no reincarnation in the Bible besides, you either are born once and die twice, or you're born twice and die once, okay? That's what is laid out in the Bible. Let's not have there's no reincarnation. That's pagan bullshit, And there's of course different variations of this, reincarnation bullshit, Anyway, but it's not true. It's paganism. That's like evolution. That's paganism as well. Anyway, O king, man is constituted of the four elements and of a soul and a spirit. Well, the soul and spirit are, and hence he is called a macrocosm. But that's also, the thing in regards to a man. We consist of three parts and we're still one person, right? Is that so? And of course we're made in the image of what? Of the gods. In regards of Jehovah, let us make man in our image and our likeness, right? So if we consist of three things, maybe God also have, and of course you have the Father, you have the Spirit, and you have the Son, right? Anyway, whatever, just thinking. Also in regards of, I did a thing in regards of, the soul, body, and, okay, anyway. The soul seems to be that's essential, the program code, pretty much. The thing is, if you want to have an idea of it, you think about a computer program, right? Okay, you have the computer program on the computer, right? It's just laying there, right? There's no activation or anything like that. It's just on the computer, on the hard drive. Then you push the program's icon and you put the spirit into the program and it awakens, It becomes living, it's alive and it works now. And, you have an active soul at that point, and the body is the interface, And then when you take the spirit away from it, you close it down by the, little cross on the top right or top left, and you close it down, and you remove the spirit, the activation in regards to of the program, and the body decomposes, it goes away, and the program code is yet on the hard drive. You see, the soul is still there, but it's not active. That's the best that I can do in regards to that parable, or whatever you want to call it, an analogy or whatever. There's different words which have different meanings. I'm not entirely sure what. Anyway, analogy, I guess. Anyway. So for as yourself allow, O king, man is constituted of the four elements, and again, I don't know in regards to these four elements, where he gets that from, and of a soul and a spirit, and hence he is called a macrocosm, and without any of these parts he could not consist. Again, I don't know where he gets these four elements from. I guess that must be maybe some paganism, I don't know. Anyway, he has a beginning and an end, and he is born and dies, but God, as I said, has none of these things in his nature, but is uncreated and unperishable. But again, you still have the Son, You have the Son which comes into the world, and, he did die, right? So, and that's one of the problems, in regards to the Messiah dying, How can you have a Messiah that dies, Anyway, Yahoo 53 maybe. So let's see here. And hence it is not possible that we should set up a man to be of the nature of God. Well, except Yeshua, man, pretty much. Yeshua is God in the flesh. Anyway, man to whom at times when he looks for joy, there comes trouble. And when he looks for laughter, there comes to him weeping, who is wrathful and covetous and envious and with other defects as well. And he is destroyed in many ways by the elements and also by the animals. And hence, O king, we are bound to recognize the error of the barbarians, that thereby, since they did not find traces of the true God, they fell aside from the truth and went after the desire of their imagination, serving the perishable elements and lifeless images, and through their error not apprehending what the true God is. So we get to 5, 6, 7, 8, chapter 8. Let us turn further to the Greeks also. So we're going to the Grecians, that we may know what opinion they hold as to the true God. The Greeks then, because they are more subtle than the barbarians, have gone further astray than the barbarians, inasmuch as they have introduced many fictitious gods, and have set up some of them as males and some as females, and in that some of their gods were found who were adulterers, and did murder, and were deluded, and envious, and wrathful, and passionate, and parasites, and thieves, and robbers. And if you actually read the Clementine homilies, or the Clementine, what's it called? That's two. Clementine homilies and Clementine homily. That's two anyway. What is the other one called? anyway, you have this. They actually, they debate some of the gods, Grecian gods, I think it is. In this book. Apparently it was a big thing in those times, but of course of course it's actually the paganism is regaining its popularity on so many levels. So very sad to see. Of course, the worst thing is pretty much Christianity, which is or paganism, which makes it out to be Christianity, and actually is paganism. Christ Mass or Yule, as we call it in Denmark, has nothing to do with the Bible. And of course, people will say, no, it's all about Yeshua or Jesus. Oh, really? So, really? It's nothing to do with the solar deity being born and all that, Nothing to do with the winter solstice and, anyway, or the Christ Mass in regards of the abomination of the Roman Catholic Mass, in regards to the false cookie Jesus, Anyway, it's just incredible. It's a disgusting world with a lot of deceptions, and when people don't care about the truth, and just lose the rope, Satan takes all the rope from them. If no one begins to stand up and take a hold on the rope and begin to pull, then we lose it all, and we have already lost a huge amount. And I would suggest people to wake up and begin to read, and begin to study, and begin to figure out what is actually going on in the world, and test some of the things that I'm saying. It's always good to test things for yourself. And I can also make issues and errors and all that. Who knows? But I could be a wolf in sheep clothing. Now I'm not a wolf in sheep clothing, but I could. And you have to, if you don't know and have no, you have to check it out. You have to, because there's a lot of liars out there, and you really have to be careful. But it's just incredible how demonic it is, And we are totally ignorant in our days, And no one seems to stand up and speak about these things. Oh, you're not allowed to speak about the Antichrist or the number 666 in our days, apparently. And of course the Roman Catholics doesn't tolerate, anti-Catholic bashing and whatever they call it, They call it many things, this and that. They are really slick with their tongue, and it's incredible. Anyway, and they can be very sweet, but so can the visible pagans, When I was in the occult, that was some of the most sweetest people, loving and this and that, but it's still sadly, what do you call it? It's a deceptive love, because it's, you're in Satan's candy store. It's evil. It's it's deceptive. Anyway, but pagans can be very loving, of course, until the demons wake up, and in regards of wanting to kill off the Christians and all that. But anyway, in any case, exposing them. But anyway, let's get back to it. Anyway, the Clementine homilies, or the Clementine homily. 2 seconds. Where's the book? Where's the book? There we go. See ya. Then what is it called? See ya. Clementine what? The Recognitions of Clement. Okay, so we have Clement homilies of Clement and Recognitions of Clement, also known as the Nazarene Acts of the Apostles. So, but anyway, an interesting book for sure. Very interesting. But anyway. So, and Wrathful, okay, let's see here. But they have this, it's like a book made for, it has, Christian doctrines in the book itself, and then it's made out as a story. It's very interesting, because, there are some things in the book that, you have to discern, you have to really weigh the things that is found in the book. But absolutely some interesting things in those documents. Anyway, and we're deluded and envious and wrathful and passionate and parasites and thieves and robbers. And some of them, they say, were crippled and limped. And some were sorcerers, and some actually went mad. and some played on lyres, and some were given to roaming on the hills, and some even died, and some were struck dead by lightning, and some were made servants even to men, and some escaped by flight, and some were kidnapped by men, and some indeed were lamented and deplored by men, and some, they say, went down to Sheol, I guess, the realm of the dead, the place of the dead, or the underworld. Apparently seems to be another word that is, anyway. And some were grievously wounded, and some transformed themselves into the likeness of animals to seduce the race of mortal women, and some polluted themselves by lying with males, and some, and by the way, in regards of the homosexual bullshit, priding themselves of doing these wicked things and all that. Well, if you actually look at it, they actually, have, connection with paganism as well. Like the god Pan, for example. You have different words in regards of Pan this, Pan that, and all that. So where does Pan actually go? Well, it's a pagan god of, filthiness, pretty much. Anyway, so it's just all it goes together, right? And they usually use a 6-colored rainbow and not a 7-colored rainbow. So if you count the rainbows in the color, it has 6 and not 7. It's just weird, because of, well, it's not weird. I guess it's a mark of, they're using like a simple, it's just disgusting. Yeah, it's just, you have to be, priding yourself and making a parade in regards of this satanic bullshit. It will never become normal to stick your weenie into another man's trash bin, or trash can, whatever. Anyway, that's not normal. That's just disgusting, Anyway, and some polluted themselves by lying with males. So there we go. In regards of and some transformed themselves into the likeness of animals to seduce the race of mortal women, and some polluted themselves by lying with males, and some, they say, were added to their mothers and their sisters. And they say were wedded. Sorry. And some, they say, were wedded to their mothers and sisters and their daughters. Yep. And that's also interesting. I've read that as well in regards of, you have the Trinity, pagan Trinity with the woman thing and all that. And apparently there seems to be a link in regards of, that one of them apparently could be both the mother and what is it, like mother and wife. So, wedded to their mothers, that would be a mother, right? And their sisters and their daughters, and they say that of their gods, and of course this is all, this is transgression of the law of Jehovah, and they say of their gods that they commit adultery with the daughters of men, and of these there was born a certain race which also was mortal, and they say that some of the females disputed about beauty and appeared before men for judgment. There's something in regards of Josephus actually talking about this, these angels having sex with, the women and all that, making this, I don't, there's different ideas about that. I know the idea is out there. I'm not entirely sure what to believe myself in regards to these things. But Josephus seems to agree, if I remember correctly, that this was angels that had sex with women, and apparently made these. If I remember correctly, Josephus is actually in agreement with that. Now, of course, he could be wrong. I don't know, but it's something that is out there, and I think actually Josephus talks about that. A lot of the stories that the Greeks have about these things are actually, but there's some variations in it, but it's pretty much what the Bible talks about a little in regards to. Anyway, it would be an interesting research to gather all the information that we can find in the world about this topic. If this actually, again, it absolutely is an idea that is out there. I can see two options. One option in regards to the sons. The line of Shem, marrying with, but yeah, and the other finger, that would be from the line of. Yeah, it's a little hard, It's just because it's just I really haven't established myself on either way, It's flying in the air, such to say, I don't really have any firm conviction to, I think it might be in regards to the Shem and all that, but I might be totally wrong about that. I know the other theory is absolutely out there, and apparently was also pretty popular, and you see it in many also Jewish literature and all that. But anyway, thus, O king, have the Greeks put forward foulness and absurdity and folly about their gods and about themselves, in that they have called those that are of such a nature gods, who are no gods, and hence mankind have received incitements to commit adultery and fornication, and that will be, of course, sin and transgression of the law, and to steal, and that's also sin, and to practice all that is offensive and hated and abhorred. For if they who are called their gods practice all these things which are written above, how much more should men practice them? Men who believe that their gods themselves practice them, and owing to the foulness of this error, there have happened to mankind harassing wars and great famines and bitter captivity and complete dissolution. And lo, it was by reason of this alone that they suffered, and that all these things came upon them. And while they endured those things, they did not perceive in their minds that for their error those things came upon them. So we have number 9. Let us proceed further to the account of their gods, that we may carefully demonstrate all that is said above. First of all, the Greeks bring forward as a god Kronos, that is to say, Kion, Saturn. Oh, by the way, isn't that in regards to the Bible, actually, in regards of the star of... That's actually interesting. I think actually some of the scriptures in regards... in regards to the star that the Israelites carries with them, according to some of the documents that we have. I think that's both in the so-called Old Testament and the New Testament, and I think they actually use it in regards of Kion, the star of something. I don't know if it's I don't know if that's exactly true and all that. I've seen a picture where you have the Star of David from, I actually see two images, at least 2 images from Sumeria, where you have the so-called Star of David, and it seems like it's a connection in regards of the, above and below and all that and whatever. Whatever. It's used in the occult, of course, but it's, if it actually represents Easter, then, or Inanna and all that. Anyway, still something to, of course, I really don't, all this paganism bullshit and all that, I really don't care about it, when you know the truth, and you don't need to know all the lies and deceptions, pretty much. But of course, it's, you're digging, and the whole just gets, it's just an ever-ending bullshit, it's just disgusting. It just continues and continues and continues. And his worshippers sacrificed their children to him, and they burned some of them alive in his honor. And they say that he took to him among his wives, Rhea. But Rhea was actually said to be... Inanna, if I remember correctly, which is Easter. So if that is the case, then, and of course, then it would be not Saturn, it would be the sun. But yeah, it seems like that would be more reasonable. One of the images I saw with the Star of David, it looks like it actually is around the sun. I've also seen multiple images of the sun being in the middle of the Star of David, so-called Star of David. Symbol of the sun in the middle of the, so it's, so if let's, if the moon god has sex in this idea, in this pagan, if actually the moon god has sex with Venus, and that might actually be symbolized by those triangles, I don't know. And then of course the sun god is then born. It comes out of, I really don't know. But that seemingly that might make sense in regards to this pagan trinity, which apparently is kind of hard to, you have information out there here and there, but mostly it's just it's a little but you can find the sun inside this and the symbols are used today as well, so it's nothing, but if Rhea is actually just another name of I don't know. Let's see here. And his worshippers sacrificed the children to him, and they burned some of them alive. And they say that he took to him among his wives Rhea, and begat many children by her. Oh wait. Okay, so no. Xian would then be maybe the moon. I don't know. I know, because I have two little data points, and there's too much bullshit out there. Cloudy smokescreen, pure fartness, and I haven't gone deep. I shouldn't really use much time on this bullshit anyway. Anyway, and begat many children by her. By her too, he begat Dios, who is called Zeus. And at length he Kronos went mad, and through fear of an oracle that had been made known to him, he began to devour his sons. And from him Zeus was stolen away without his knowledge, and at length Zeus bound him, and mutilated the signs of his manhood, and flung them into the sea, and hence, as they say in the fable, there was engendered Aphrodite, who is called Astarte. No, Astarte is, who is called Astarte, and he, Zeus, cast out Kronos, fettered into darkness. Well, actually, Astarte might be in regards of, it's just, pagan bullshit, all of it, whatever the case, it doesn't really, but, yeah, I might actually, I think it was, I have to be careful in regards to this, because, there's a lot of information, and there's so much, and I haven't really been, I have to be careful in regards to this. So don't take me on my word on this pagan, words on the pagan bullshit. Do your own research on that. But I know there's a pagan triad or trinity. You just look that up. That's very easy to find, and you find images after images after images. Now, in regards of how it's connected with all these other, I don't have. It's the same thing with Christ Mass and Easter and all the traditions that is in these. People tend to borrow a little from here, from there, and go passing one way to another, and then another way to back, and again, and back and forward, and so forward, and you see all the paganism all over the world. From this nation and that nation or whatever. It's just one big pile of bullshit, pretty much. Anyway, and he Zeus cast out Kronos, fettered into darkness. Great then is the error and ignominy which the Greeks have brought forward about the first of their gods, in that they have said all this about him, O king. It is impossible that a god should be bound or mutilated, and if it be otherwise, he is indeed miserable. Well, in regards of Yeshua, he was, he was put on a tree, right? And that was one of the problems that, as I understand it, that the Jews had. The Messiah being executed. Oh, give me a break, right? Well, read Yeshayahu 53. And after Kronos, they bring forward another god, Zeus, and they say of him that he assumed the sovereignty and was king over all the gods. And isn't Zeus actually the sun god then? Okay, so maybe they get around in regards of Kronos actually being the moon god. Maybe I'm, again, sometimes they just mix the paganism together and this and that. But we know there is a pagan trinity, and there's a pagan trinity that you see on so many places. So it must have been something that has been, what do you call it, prevalent? Is that the right word? I don't know. A thing that is very important for these pagans. So and after Kronos, they bring forward another god, Zeus, and they say of him that he assumed the sovereignty and was king over all the gods. So forward another god, Zeus, and and they say of him that he assumed the sovereignty and was king over all the gods. I think Zeus is the sun god, but I might be wrong. But in regards of the wasn't in regards to the sun, that was in regards of why they sacrificed the winter solstice in the temple. I think it was Zeus. They put anyway. And they say that he changed himself into a beast and other shapes in order to seduce mortal women and to raise up by them children for himself. Once they say he changed himself into a bull through love of Europe and Pasiphae. And again he changed himself into the likeness of gold through love of Danae, and to a swan through love of Leda, and to a man through love of Antiope, and to lightning through love of Luna. Luna sounds like the moon, I don't know, but anyway. And so by these he begat many children, for by Antiope they say that he began Cetius and Amphion, and by Luna Dionysus, by Alcmena Hercules, and by Leto Apollo and Artemis. By Alcmena Hercules, and by Leto Apollo and Artemis. Apollo is another sun god, if I remember correct. There's a lot of, it's just, I don't know. And by Danae Perseus, and by Leda Castor, and Polydeuces, and Helena. Apparently, not, there's not a few pagan gods in the old Roman Empire. It just seems like it's all over, all this bullshit, just continues and continues. And by Danae Perseus, and of course this is in regards to the Grecians, right? And by Leda Castor and Polydeuces, and Helena and Polydeuces and Mnemosyne, he begat 9 daughters whom they styled the Muses. Different muses have different categories and all that, if I remember correctly. And by Europe. Looks like Europe in regards to the name Europe, right? Might have something to do with that. It's actually the Roman, Roman European Union, And all roads leads to Rome, as we know, and all that. Minos and Rhadamanthus and Sarpedon. And lastly, he changed himself into the likeness of an eagle through his passion of Ganymedes, or Ganymed the shepherd. Oh my. By reason of these tales, O king, much evil has arisen among men who to this day are imitators of their gods, and practice adultery and defile themselves with their mothers and their sisters, and by lying with males, and some make bold to slay even their parents. For if he who is said to be the chief and king of their gods do these things, how much more should his worshippers imitate him? ? And great is the folly which the Greeks have brought forward in their narrative concerning him, for it is impossible that a god should practice adultery or fornication, or come near to lie with males, or kill his parents. And if it be otherwise, he is much worse than a destructive demon. Number 10. And again, they bring forward as another god, Hephaestus, and they say of him that he is lame, and a cap is set on his head, and he holds in his hand fire tongs and a hammer. And he follows the craft of ironworking, that thereby he may produce the necessaries of his livelihood. Is then this god so very needy? ? But it cannot be that a god should be needy or lame, else he is very worthless. And further they bring in another god and call him Hermes, and they say that he is a thief, a lover of avarice, and greedy for gain, and a magician, and mutilated, and an athlete, and an interpreter of language. But it is impossible that a god should be a magician or avaricious. I'm not sure what that avaricious. See if we have maybe a little help here. Okay, in regards of wealth, wanting wealth. And greedy for gain, and a magician, and mutilated, and an athlete, and an interpreter of language. But it's impossible that a god should be a magician, or avaricious, or maimed, or craving for what is not his, or an athlete. And if it be otherwise, he is found to be useless. And after him they bring forward as another god Asclepius, and they say that he is a physician and prepare drugs and plaster, that he may supply the necessaries of his livelihood. Is then this god in want? Question mark. And at length he was struck with lightning by Dios on account of Tyndareus of Lacedaemon. And daemon is actually, as I understand it, also a word for demon. I think it's daemon, or maybe it's daemon or daemon. Maybe it's actually daemon. And you can see if you read the writings, some of the writings of Plato in regards to Socrates, he had a daemon. I think it's actually daemon, so it might be, I think it actually needs to be. So anyway, so he had contact with a demon and was led astray by, at least one demon. So they called him something. They called him something at that point. I can't remember what they were called, but they, and of course you could ask them questions and. Well, 2 seconds. I'll get some water here. So anyway, and so he died. If then Asclepius were a god, and when he, I wonder in regards of of Socrates, will he continue, standing before God and all that, Socrates has had his way of asking, questions, and in regards of knowing. I can't remember all the details about it. It's a long time but anyway, I was, at that time, many years ago, I was fond of Socrates and Plato. Socrates was the first one that I was into, and then Plato, if anything, and then I didn't really like Aristoteles. I really didn't care for him at all, pretty much at that point. But I cared, Socrates was, I never really got to read much about a book in regards of Plato and writings about Socrates and all that. I just flipped, pretty much just read a little here and a little there, and in regards to the demons, just. So I really, there's so much that you can use time on, right, in this world, and yeah. So how should he be able to give help to others? But with lightning by Dios on account of Tyndareus of Lacedaemon, and so he died. If then Asclepius were a god, and when he was struck with lightning was unable to help himself, how should he be able to give help to others? But that a divine nature should be in want or be destroyed by lightning is impossible. And again they bring forward another as a god, and they call him Ares, and they say that he is just continuing with all these bullshit pagan things. And they say that he is a warrior and jealous and covered sheep and things which are not his. And he makes gain by his arms, and they say that at length he committed adultery with Aphrodite, and was caught by the little boy Eros, and by Hephaestus, the husband of Aphrodite. But it is impossible that a god should be a warrior bound or an adulterer. And again they say of Dionysus that he forsooth is I don't know what forsooth is, forsooth, let's see. In truth, in disbelief, that he forsooth, disbelief, is a god who arranges carousels by night, and teaches drunkenness, and carries off women who do not belong to him. And at length they say he went mad, and dismissed his handmaidens, and fled into the desert. And during his madness he ate serpents, and at last he was killed by Titanos. If then Dionysus were a god, then when he was being killed was unable to help himself, how is it possible that he should help others? Heracles next they bring forward, and say that he is a god who hates detestable things, a tyrant, a warrior, and a destroyer of plagues. And of him also they say that at length he became mad and killed his own children, and eased himself into a fire, I guess, and cast himself into a fire and died. If then Heracles is a god, and in all these calamities was unable to rescue himself, how should others ask help from him? But it is impossible that a god should be mad, or drunken, or a slayer of his children, or consumed by fire. In regards, look at all the paganism that is being promoted in the world. Movies and series, and it's just pagan bullshit. Anyway, number 11. And after him they bring forward another god and call him Apollon. And they say that he is jealous and inconstant, and at times he holds the bow and quiver, and again the lyre and the plectron. Not sure what the plectron is, but let's have a look. A small thin device of metal, plastic, used to pluck a stringed instrument. Okay. The plectron, and he utters oracles for men that he may receive rewards from them. Is then this god in need of rewards? But it is an insult that all these things should be found with a god. And after him they bring forward as a goddess Artemis, the sister of Apollo. I think it wasn't that some maybe Artemis and Paul, I don't know. And they say that she was a huntress, and that she herself used to carry a bow and bolts, and to roam about upon the mountains, leading the hounds to hunt stag or wild bears of the field. But it is disgraceful that a virgin maid should roam alone upon the hills or hunt in the chase for animals. Wherefore it is impossible that Artemis should be a goddess. I'm not sure anyway in regards to the argument, but whatever. Again, they say of Aphrodite that she indeed is a goddess. And at times she dwells with their gods, but at the other times she is a neighbor to men. And once she had Ares as a lover, and again Adonis, who is Tammuz. So Adonis is Tammuz. Interesting. And again, who is Tammuz? Okay. Once also Aphrodite was and you have to remember that he's writing to the king of the Roman Empire, the Caesar and all that. So you would think that he's getting the things correct, right? Because he's writing to a king, right? And the Roman king. Anyway. I don't think he would try to write something that was false to Caesar, that seems to be pretty stupid, to do. And again, Adonis, who is Tammuz. Once also Aphrodite was wailing and weeping for the death of Tammuz. Also, that's Aphrodite. So apparently, so she's up in the heavens sometimes and down, was wailing and weeping for the death of Tammuz, and that she went down to Sheol, that she might redeem Adonis, that would be Tammuz, from Persephone, who is the daughter of Sheol or Hades. That's the underworld, pretty much. If then Aphrodite is a goddess and was unable to help her lover at his death. So she's his lover. Again, they say of Aphrodite that she indeed is a goddess. And at times she dwells with their gods, but at other times she is a neighbor to men. And once she had Ares as a lover, and again Adonis, who is Tammuz. Had Ares, I wonder if the same, Ares, Adonis, if that's the same or two different. She had Ares as a lover, and again Adonis, who is Tammuz. It might be two different, but at least Adonis is Tammuz. At least that's once also Aphrodite was wailing and weeping for the death of Tammuz. Actually, we actually just like 100 meters away from where I actually live. That's that's a statue, and I thought about the iconoclasm and all that. But, that's a statue of Adonis with Tammuz. Let's see let's see if I can find it on the, I think I have it on, did I delete that map application? Probably not on Google Maps, but I had a map application that I had installed. I'm not, the problem is I had so many maps. Maybe it's in the Pocket map as well. Nah, yeah, just go for okay. So this is Denmark. I don't know if it actually is found in the. Let's see, yeah, if we have. Do we have like a pencil for? There we go. So there was another application that I actually used that was pretty good, but the thing is, it fills up on the mobile all these map applications, and so it should be around here. No, we're going a little down here. No, it's not there. It should be right there. Yeah, no, actually, maybe a little further there. But usually it was on the map. I'm not sure because it actually uses the same maps as I understand it. Open maps or something like that. But apparently there's some things it doesn't have. I don't know if we tried the other one. Maybe I could check Earth, but that really don't help us in regards to the information. Let's see if it wants to update the map. Okay, here we go. Yep. We hit the right place, but it should be right there. Apparently not. I don't know. I guess I uninstalled the other application because I have too much too much room and but it was actually a pretty good application. And if one wants to get away from Google, of course, that would probably, was a very good application, actually. I can't even remember what it's called. Open something. I do have Pocket Maps, and that's also open source and free and all that. And that's a wonderful application as well, And you can really see a lot of details, on it. Look at that. You just have you have a huge amount of details in this application. It's incredible. All that. I don't know if it turned around here, but compared to no, apparently it doesn't want to turn around. Well, it's okay. I don't know if there's any close map view. Okay, I guess it's nice. It's not just flipping around and all that. That could be a good thing. Again, I haven't really used the GPS so much in regards to this. Have in, but as I understand it, they get it from the same. But anyway, I think that actually is Adonis. I could of course search Adonis with. Of course, I could also just walk down there. It's just 100 meters. I think there's some information on the statue itself. I do wonder why would we even have a statue like that? In a country that says it's Christian, or at least some believe it's still to be Christian. Now, let's see. Now, apoteket. Let's see. Apoteket. I was just going to use some Danish. Apoteket. Danish must just go Kastrup. I should maybe have put in Kastrup on the. Nope. Kastrup statue. So you see, the paganism is still everywhere, and well, that was in regards to where he sees weeping for Tammuz, or not weeping for. I'm not sure what, and that's of course would be interesting. I can't remember what it was called in regards of. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Apparently. Anyway, but it's not far from where I live, so yeah. Anyway, but that would be interesting to see how they, and of course the Freemasons have all their pagan bullshit. Freemasonry is Satanism. And they might hide behind, Christianity as well as, so many. They apparently believe themselves to be the Knights of Templars. Oh, where did we actually go? That was, there was some spyware in one of the applications in regards to this map thing and all that. And so if you wanted the newest version, of course I wouldn't need the newest version and all that, but yeah, anyway. It quickly gets fills up when they do these stupidities that you can't use the memory card. And anyway, and after him they bring forward as a goddess Artemis, yeah, there we go. So again, they say of Aphrodite that she indeed is a god who is Tammuz. And again, this statue down here is actually where she's holding Tammuz, which is dead, and she's, I guess, crying. Oh, Adonis. I think it actually talks about. I'm not sure what word, but Adonis. I remember the word Adonis, so I guess that must be the word they use. I wonder what they use then for the woman. Anyway, but it's just out in the public. I need some water. I've been talking for a good amount of time. I just spilled water. Anyway, so Adonis, who is Tammuz, once also Aphrodite was wailing and weeping for the death of. How long is that? And I'm now starting, from the beginning again, right? So where's Adonis? Adonis. Um, and at times she dwells with the gods, but at other times she is a neighbor to men. And once she had Ares as a lover, and again Adonis, who is Tammuz. Once also Aphrodite was wailing. If in regards to the pagan trinity here, Adonis would be the sun god, if that is the case. And then Aphrodite would then need to be the Venus, um, and maybe Aries could be to begin to see, to begin to discern what is going on. Uh, yeah, and that she might redeem Adonis from Persephone, who is the daughter of Sheol. If then Aphrodite is a goddess and was unable to help her lover at his death, how will she find it possible to help others? And this cannot be listened to, that the divine nature should come to weeping and wailing and adultery. And again, they say of Tammuz that he is a god, and he is, forsooth, a hunter and an adulterer. Now we go with the hunter. Hunter. Wait, an interesting title in of Tammuz. That was in regards of the 40 days of crying for Tammuz or something. Anyway, and they say that he was killed by a wound from a wild boar, and without being able to help himself. And if he could not help himself, how can he take thought for the human race? Thought for the human race. The idea, as I understand it, that we have someone else that is representing as the moon, I think, and then you have apparently Aphrodite is apparently having, becoming pregnant. Trying to the best that I can. Might be some things that are totally, missed here. He again and again they say of Tammuz that he is a god and he is forsooth a hunter and an adulterer. I really, again, it's really hard to figure up and down on these things. But the thing is, they have a trinity. It's the moon, the sun, and Venus, or moon, Venus, and sun. So, or the solar thing. That's very easy. That's a accepted fact, pretty much all over. You can just look at the encyclopedia, or all the images that is found, throughout the old civilizations and all that. You can find this, the symbols of this trinity. But anyway, pagan trinity, by the way. And they say that he was killed by a wound from a wild boar without him able to help himself. And if he could not help himself, how can he take thought for the human race? But that a god should be an adulterer or hunter or should die by violence is impossible. Well, in regards of Yeshua, he pretty much died, didn't he? Again, they say of Rhea that she is the mother of their gods. And they say she raised a lamentation and mourned for Attis, her lover. If then the mother of their gods was unable to help her and love her and deliver him from death, how can she help others? So it is disgraceful that a goddess should lament and weep and take delight in depraved men. Again, they introduce Corre and say that she is a goddess, and she was stolen away by Pluto and could not help herself. If then she is a goddess and was unable to help herself, how will she find means to help others? For a god who is stolen away is very powerless. All this then, O king, have the Greeks brought forward concerning the gods, and they had invented and declared it concerning them, and hence all men receives an impulse to work, all profanity and all defilements, and hereby the whole world was corrupted. That's in regards to the Greeks. Here we go with the Egyptians. That's number 12. The Egyptians, moreover, because they are more base and stupid than every people that is on the earth, okay, have themselves erred more than all. And said thereof that they were gods, and that by every kind of delusion and defilement more than every people that is on the earth. For from ancient times they worshipped Isis, and they say that she is a goddess whose husband was Osiris, her brother. Oh, I have a brother, okay. Sorry, she's a husband of, okay. And when Osiris was killed by Typhon, his brother, Isis fled with Horus, her son, with Horus, okay, so she has a son apparently. Okay, Isis with the Horus, her son, to Babylus in Syria. So you have the Horus, let's see here. Isis, Osiris, and Horus. Okay. Her son to Babylus in Syria and was there for a certain time till the son was grown, and he contended with Typhon his uncle, and killed him. And then Isis returned and went about with Horus, her son, and sought for the dead body of Osiris, her lord. And sought for the dead body of Osiris. Okay, so she returned and went about with Horus, her son, and sought for the dead body of Osiris, her lord, bitterly lamenting his death. If then Isis be a goddess, and could not help Osiris, her brother and lord, how can she help another? But it's impossible that a divine nature should be afraid and flee for safety, or should weep and veil, or else it is very miserable. Again, thinking of the, he has some problems with his argumentation. If he's, I don't know if he's a Christian, but we see in regards of fleeing to, we see fleeing, whatever. God instructs Joseph to go to Egypt, right? So we have a little of the same here. Anyway, and of Osiris also they say that he is. So as just in regards of his argumentation, they could, the arguments could probably be used actually against the Christians as well, on some levels. And of Osiris also they say that he is a serviceable god, and he was killed by Typhon and was unable to help himself. But it's well known that this cannot be asserted of divinity. And further they say of his brother Typhon that he is a god, who killed his brother and was killed by his brother's son and by his bride, being unable to help himself. And how pray is he a god who does not save himself? Again, in regards of that's some of the arguments that the Jews use against Jesus, right? So again, not really, As the Egyptians then were more stupid than the rest of the nations, these and such like gods did not suffice for them. Nay, but they even applied the name. I wonder who this guy is. Even they call him Saint, right? I wonder, because some of the arguments I think is pretty bad. Anyway, as the Egyptians then were more stupid than the rest of the nations, these and such like gods did not suffice for them. Nay, but they even apply the name of gods to animals in which there is no soul at all. For some of them worship the sheep, and others the calf, and some the pig, and others of the shadfish. I don't know what shadfish is, but shadfish. Apparently they. I was in, bony flesh of herring like fish, usually caught during the migration to fresh water. Okay, whatever. It's a fish. Okay. And some the crocodile and the hawk and the fish and the ibis and the vulture and the eagle and the raven. It's a lot of unclean animals. The sheep is of course clean. Calf is clean. Pig is unclean. Shadfish, not sure about that. Crocodile unclean. The hawk is unclean. The ibis, I think it's like a bird. I'm not entirely sure. Vulture and eagle and raven is unclean. Anyway, some of them worship the cat, which is also unclean, and others the turbot fish. Not sure what that is. But it's a fish of some kind. Some the dog unclean. Some of the adder. What's the adder? I think that's unclean as well, but I'm not entirely sure what exactly it is. Viper or something. Okay, whatever. I think it's an unclean animal, and other such things. And the poor creatures do not see that all these things are in regards of the 5 books of Moses. Moses is talking about, if the Egyptians are seeing them slay, it might be because they are perceiving them as God, these animals. But anyway, although they daily witness their gods being eaten and consumed by men and also by their fellows, while some of them are cremated and some die and decay and become dust, without their observing that they perish in many ways. So the Egyptians have not observed that such things which are not equal to their own deliverance are not gods, and if forsooth they are weak in the case of their own deliverance, hence have they power to help in the case of deliverance of their worshippers? Question mark. Great then is the error into which the Egyptians wandered, greater indeed than that of any people which is upon the face of the earth. 2 seconds. A little water. Number 13. But it is a marvel, O king, with regards to the Greeks, who surpass all other peoples in their manner of life and reasoning, how they have gone astray after dead idols and lifeless images. And we still see that today, you know. Just look at Roman Catholicism, you know, or Orthodoxy. You know, they call themselves Christians, but look at what they're doing. And lifeless images, and yet they see their gods in the hands of their artificers, being sown out and planted and docked and hacked short and charred and ornamented and being altered by them in every kind of way. Actually, in regards to the, you know, this image of so-called Mary sitting on the mercy seat with the moon underneath her and the sun in her chest, the sun cookie of the Roman Catholics, and of course her representing the Queen of Heaven. You have the pagan trinity right there, you know. But I saw an image where they were making this so-called Mary, and I remember reading something that this, you know, so-called mother of the church was asking them to, you know, just utter just demonic bullshit, you know. How these people following along with the devil, I have no idea. You know, in our days where we have, and I guess, you know, I was deceived as well. But yeah. So, anyway, and when they grow old, they are worn away through lapse of time. And when they are molten and crushed to powder, how I wonder did they not perceive concerning them that they are not gods. And as for those who did not find deliverance for themselves, how can they serve the distress of men? But even the writers and philosophers among them have wrongly alleged that the gods are such as are made in honor of God Almighty, but even the writers and philosophers among them have wrongly alleged that the gods are such as are made in honor of God Almighty, that they err in seeking to liken them to God, whom man has not at any time seen, nor can see unto what he is like. Now, of course, Yeshua was God Almighty, but anyway, herein too they err, in asserting of deity that any such things as deficiency can be present to it, as when they say that he receives sacrifice and requires burnt offerings and libatation and immolations of men. I'm not sure what immolation, I guess, is that in regards of the, I wonder, let's see. Okay.
Immolation.
I thought it was something else. Okay, so killing of animals and all that, and immolations of men and temples. But God is not in need, and none of these things is necessary to him. And it is clear that men err in these things they imagine. Further, their writers and their philosophers represent and declare that the nature of all their gods is one. So further, their writers and philosophers represent and declare that the nature of all their gods is one, and that they have not apprehended God our Lord, who while he is one is in all. They err therefore, for if the body of a man while it is many in its part is not in dread one member of another, but since it is united body wholly agrees with itself, even so also God is one in his nature. A single, but I don't know the arguments here, you know, because you have to remember that in regards to the children of God, they have the Holy Spirit, right? So they all have the Holy Spirit, right? So I don't, you know, the arguments that he's using against the pagans, you know, could actually be turned around and, you know, on, you know, regards of Christianity on many levels, I think. But anyway, so for if the body of a man while it is many in its part is not in dread one member of another, but since it is a united body wholly agrees with itself, even so also God is one in his nature. A single essence is proper to him, since he is uniform in his nature and is his essence, and he is not afraid of himself. Well, Yeshua, Yeshua is the one that does the will of the Father, and I just I think there's some I don't know, but the Son always does what the Father wills. So we still have a hierarchy in some sense, that the Father is still above the Son in regards of but the Father is in the Son and the Son is in the Father. But anyway, and he is not afraid of himself. If then the nature of the gods is one, it is not proper that a god should either pursue or slay or harm a god. If then gods be pursued and wounded by gods, and some be kidnapped and some struck dead by lightning, it is obvious that the nature of the gods is not one. And hence it is known, O king, that it is a mistake when they reckon and bring the natures of their gods under a single nature. If then it becomes us to admire a God which is seen and does not see, how much more praiseworthy is it that one should believe in a nature which is invisible and all-seeing? And if further it is fitting that one should approve the handiworks of a craftsman, how much more is it fitting that one should glorify the creator of the craftsman? Okay, I get his arguments, but still some of them are, I think there's some, because again, if as a Christian, you have Yeshua, who is the man, the Word that became flesh, so, and you could see him and you could talk to him, you could, and so forward. By their laws they condemn their gods. For if their laws are righteous, their gods are unrighteous, since they transgress the law in killing one another, and practicing sorcery and committing adultery. I wonder in regards to sorcery what sorcery is totally about in regards. Anyway, and committing adultery, and in robbing and stealing, and in lying with males, and by the other practices as well. For if their gods are right in doing all these things as they are described, then the laws of the Greeks are unrighteous in not being made according to the will of their gods, and in the case the whole world is gone astray. And some of them hymns and elegies. I don't know what elegies is. Let's see. It's very sad that these work so good. These a mournful poem are meant for the dead.
Elegy.
Okay. Sometimes they don't even makes the mobile react, so very bad. I should have, so anyway, let's get back to it. The hymns indeed and elegies are empty words and noise, but these nature poems, even if they be made as they say, still those are not gods who do such things and suffer and endure such things, and those myths are shallow tales with no get to the Jews instead of all this pagan bullshit, Let us come, O king, to the history of the Jews also, and see what opinion they have as to God. The Jews then say that God is one, the creator of all, and omnipotent, and that it is not right that any other should be worshipped except this God alone. And herein they appear to approach the truth more than all the nations, especially in that they worship God and not his works. And they imitate God by the philanthropy which prevails among them, for they have compassion on the poor, and they release the captives and bury the dead, and do such things as these, which are acceptable before God, and well-pleasing also to men, which customs they have received from their forefathers. Nevertheless, they too erred from true knowledge, and in their imagination they conceive that it is God they serve. Whereas by their mode of observance it is to the angels and not to God that their service is rendered. As when they celebrate Sabbaths and the beginning of the month, the feast of unleavened bread, and a great fast and fasting and circumcision, and the purification of meats, which things, however, they do not observe perfectly. And the beginning of the month, I still don't understand in regards to, because we don't really have. Do we have any commandments found in the 5 books of Moses in regards to the celebration, in regards to new moons and all that? I just I don't know how that works out, because apparently it seems like there is some kind of celebration at the beginning of the month as well. But how does that add up? Why would they do that? Because as I remember, there's no commandment to do that in the Bible. But we then see later on actually talking about in the future in regards to new moons, I think. I don't know, maybe it was just, maybe it's just a thing they did, without being commanded to do it. But I think there was something in regards to future prophecies as well, in regards of new moons to new moons or something like that. I don't know. Again, is there any commandment found in the Torah for that? It's just, whatever. That's the thing, if you actually grow up with the Bible, you will be a lot, you will be able to focus on these things because you already know the rest, so you'll be able to focus on other things so anyway. But I really don't know. In regards to these new moons, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, of course, is one of the festivals in regards to the Bible. The Great Fast is also biblical, as I understand, in regards of atonement. And circumcision is found in the Torah and so forth. Not sure what the purification of meat is, but I guess that might be in regards of bleeding them out or something like that, instead of eating them with the blood and all that. I guess that, the pagans, pagans seem to have done strangling and all that. And that's at least one of the things where they... Anyway, however, they do not however, they do not observe perfectly. And then we have 15. But the Christians, O king, while they went about and made search, have found the truth. And as we learn from their writings, they have come nearer to truth and genuine knowledge than the rest of the nations. For they know and trust in God, the creator of the heaven and the earth, and probably plural again in regards to the heavens, in whom and from whom are all things, to whom there is no other God as companion, from whom they receive commandments which they engraved upon their minds, and observe in hope and expectation of the world which is to come. Wherefore they do not commit adultery, nor fornication, nor bear false witness. This is interesting, right? So wherefore they do not commit adultery, nor fornication, nor bear false witness. That would be lying and all that, right? Saying something is, which is not true. Nor embezzle was his... I wonder what that is. Nor embezzle. Embezzle, let's see here. Fraud into one's own use. I'm not entirely... Embezzle was his held in pledge, nor covered what is not theirs. They honor father and mother and show kindness to those near to them, and whenever they are judges, they judge uprightly. They do not worship idols made in the image of man, well, tell that to the Roman Catholics in our days, or the Orthodox, but they do not worship idols made in the image of man and whatsoever. But of course, this is 125 AD, so there might not have, the corruption might not have been, this is spreading all over the world, and I guess some places have more corruptions than others. Anyway, the image of, okay, so they do not worship idols made in the image of man, and whatsoever they would not that others should do unto them, they do not to others. And of the food which is consecrated to idols, they do not eat. Oh, that's the interesting thing here. I think actually that was the reason why I actually found this guy. And I might actually have gotten this quote from a Roman Catholic, actually, pointed out. I'm not entirely sure, but this is one of the, again, one of these quotations in regards to not eating food sacrificed to idols or consecrated to idols. Isn't that interesting? Because that's, a lot of people, a lot of Christians believe that they can eat anything and everything. And here we have a testimony, another testimony. We also have in regards of the Clementines documents, they also talks about not eating food sacrificed to false gods. And of course, the book of Acts talks about it 3 times. And of course, we have the rebukes in the book of Revelation, because apparently some people were going around and teaching this. And some people were doing this as well, eating things that were sacrificed to false gods. I wonder who that could be. Couldn't have been, well, maybe it could be, yeah. Anyway, I think it was, yeah. The Roman Pharisee that was rejected by all Asia. Yep. Anyway, yeah, he's very, what you call it, shrewd, or very slick, very clever, anyway, and educated as well. But Satan has some of the most educated, I think, the most educated men out there, and clever, deceptive people out there, so you really have to be careful, really, really careful. Anyway, they do not worship idols made in the image of man, and whatsoever they would not that others should do unto them, they do not to others. And of the food which is consecrated to idols, they do not eat. Really? For they are pure. Oh, and their oppressors they appease, comfort, and make them their friends. Okay, they do good to their enemies and their women. I could really learn a lot from this. I really need there's a lot of things to work on. That's for sure. But yeah, that's the direction we want to go for sure. And make them their friends. They do good to their enemies, and their women, O king, are pure as virgins, and their daughters are modest, and their men, in regards to modesty, and their men, look at the world today, just totally gone haywire. And their men keep themselves from every unlawful union and from all uncleanness, in the hope of a recompense to come in the other world. Further, if one, I don't know if this guy is a Christian or not, I really don't know, because yes, some weird things for sure in the document. So I'm not sure if he's a Christian or what, but apparently he seems to agree that the Christians have found the truth, And the hope of recompense to come into the other world. Further, if one or other of them have bound men and bound women or children through love towards them, they persuade them to become Christians. And when they have done so, they call them brethren without distinction. Yeah, brethren, brothers and sisters. They do not worship strange gods, and they go their way in all modesty and cheerfulness. Falsehood is not found among them, and they love one another. And from widows they do not turn away their esteem, and they deliver the orphan from him who treats him harshly. And he who has gives to him who has not, without boasting. And when they see a stranger, they take him into their homes and rejoice over him as a very brother. For they do not call them brethren after the flesh, but brethren after the Spirit and in God. And whenever one of their poor passes from the world, each one of them according to his ability gives heed to him and carefully sees to his burial. And if they hear that one of their number on account of the name of their Messiah. He's talking about their. So, if he was a Christian himself, he should probably have said our Messiah. But anyway, of their Messiah, all of them anxiously minister to his necessity. And if it is possible to redeem him, they set him free. And if there is among them any that is poor and needed, and needy, and if they have no spare food, they fast 2 or 3 days in order to supply to the needy their lack of food. They observe the precepts of his loving kindnesses towards them, and for their food and their drink Lord escort his body as if he were setting out from one place to another to guard them all, as for one who has passed through the world without sins. I don't know about that, but anyway, that's some weird, sometimes there's, regards of baptizing people in ice cold water, and then the child, because of the stream down underneath it, that the child is taken away from, they apparently, that the child is needed to be baptized in this, so they make a hole in the ice and go out to baptize, but apparently there's a stream underneath, underneath the ice that is pretty harsh. So while they want to baptize the child gets taken under by the stream and dies. And, apparently had, because now it's baptized, right? So, they believe that because it's baptized, then it's, saved. That just seems to me very cruel, That just, that's just disgusting, That's, it seemed, of course they probably didn't do it on purpose and all that, but come on, that's just disgusting, that's, yeah, it seems outrageous. So, and further, if they see that any one of them dies in his ungodliness or in his sins, for him they grieve bitterly and sorrow as for one who goes to meet his doom. There's some things that absolutely is nice. And if they hear that one of their number is imprisoned or afflicted on account of the name of their Messiah, all of them anxiously minister to his necessity. And if it is possible to redeem him, they set him free. And if there is among them any that is poor and needy, if they have no spare food, they fast 2 or 3 days in order to supply to the needy their lack of food, and so forth. Yeah, okay. They observe the precepts of their Messiah with much care, living justly and soberly as the Lord their God commanded them. And so forward. Yeah, okay. Anyway. So we are number 16. Such, O King, is the commandments of the law of the Christians, and such is their manner of life. As men who know God, they asked from him petitions, which are fitting for him to grant and for them to receive, and thus they employ their whole lifetime. And since they know the loving kindnesses of God towards them, behold, for their sake the glorious things which are in the world flow forth to view. And verily they are those who found the truth when they went about and made search for it. And from what we considered, we learned that they alone come near to a knowledge of the truth. And they do not proclaim in the ears of the multitude the kind deeds they do. Okay. It's also nice, that they're not going around proclaiming like, oh, I did this and I did that and all that. When you see people, in regards to these different and companies that gives money for this and that, and they just get the trumpet, they blow the trumpet, right? Oh, this organization gave us so and so much, and they get commercials on the television and all that. Well, they pretty much just lost their But anyway, of course, in regards of some of these organizations are poor devilish anyway, but they are using the products of sickness to it's just disgusting. They're actually part of murdering people. Oh yeah, we just need some more money and we'll have the cure. It's just around the corner since forever, right? Nearly forever. But it's just around the corner. They don't want to. The whole system is pure bullshit. Anyway, I don't think you need to give them more money. More resources to continue this insanity of yeah. But anyway, they're not going. The product is sickness. That's the it's just disgusting how the world is going around. Anyway. And, not talking about the cause might actually be fungus, right? No, let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about the cure. It's just around the corner and we just need some more millions to do it, right? And they do not proclaim in the ears of the multitude the kind deeds they do, but are careful that no one should notice them, and they conceal their giving just as he who finds a treasure and they conceal their giving just as he who finds a treasure and conceals it. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting. There's some interesting information for sure, and there's absolutely a lot of things that I could work on. I I'm far from there's a lot of things that I still do wrong. Yeah, just think about some of those Christians out there that really 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 just go totally radical and just it's nice. Yeah, and they strive to be righteous as those who in regards to unrighteousness is pretty much straying away from the law of Jehovah, and doing all these sins, transgressions of the law. Anyway, so as those who expect to behold their worship and the hope of earning according to the work of each one, to the work, according to the work of each one of them, the recompense which they look for in another world, or maybe look forward in regards of the first resurrection. Now, I'm still, I'm still will be resurrected at that point. And I guess that makes sense in regards to the sheep and the goat parable. And then later on, after 1,000 years, we see the great white throne judgment where everybody is pretty much resurrected. The dead and all that. And they, you will either be sentenced to the lake of fire or not. Now, of course, in regards of the sheep and the goats, we know that Yeshua rejects the goats and but anyway, and the goat seems to actually be believers as well. But so I'm not entirely sure. But it seems to me that we might have a first resurrection. But in regards of those, there will be Roman Catholics and Christians, and Roman Catholics will be cast into the lake of fire because they persecuted the sheep. They killed off the saints, they're part in killing off, whatever, I'm just trying to, because we know that there will be people that says, Lord, Lord, right? Was that Matthew? I really need to read more, read study. I mean, getting the puzzle pieces together. But there will be people saying, "Lord, Lord, haven't we done wonderful works in your name and prophesied in your name and driven out demons in your name?" And what does Yeshua say? "I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity, lawlessness, ye that are without the law." What was like onomos or something like that. I think it was onomos or something like that. I see the context of it. So, of course, people believe that, so many people say the law is abolished. What other nonsense? What is the highest command? To love God with all your heart, being, soul, and strength, right? Who is Yeshua? Oh, he's God, isn't he? So what is the first and foremost commandment to do? Well, to love him, right? Yeshua, when you see in regards to why, he's talking about that the Jews are breaking the law. Why do you want to kill me? So that's the they want to kill God. They want to kill their own God, and they say they love him, right? And apparently it seems like Yeshua is talking about, well, this is breaking the law. Why. Anyway, so he's equivalent, what you call it, he's talking about the law, and then he's talking, why are you all, breaking the law, in regards of wanting to kill me, that's, and hating him and all that. Anyway, let's just see if we can find this. Maybe it's further. There we go. In regards of, take heed that you do not your alms before men to be seen of them, otherwise you have no reward of your Father which is in the heavens, or heaven. Let's see, it's maybe 7. Judge not that ye be not judged. Oh, that's, yeah. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure you meet, it shall be measured to you again. Maybe I need to, and again, I need a lot of work in regards of. It's just incredible. Oh, here we go. Be aware of false prophets, right? Be aware of false prophets which come to you in sheep clothing, but inwardly they are, ravening wolves. And that word, different things in regards of both in, robbers, extortioners. That wolves in sheep clothing. What does a wolf in sheep clothing look like? Well, it looks like a sheep, right? You have to test it, be instructed by the master. I don't know whether, I thought it was 5 or 7. Okay, should be. Prophets, in regards of wolves in sheep clothing. So it's talks about wolves in sheep clothing, right? In regards of and sheep in sheep clothing, and in regards of, if possible, can deceive the elect and all that. That's another place. And few there be that find it. Beware of false prophets that which come to you in sheep clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even rub tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that nil will be cast into the fire, collected and cast into the fire, and then the good eatable wheat will be taken into the barn. So again, you have all these parables which give information, and you put them together, and yeah. Anyway, so not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven. What? Yeah, he's, rejecting someone. But he that doeth the will of my Father which is in the heavens. So what is the will of the Father? Maybe in regards to doing the law of Jehovah. Because we see what he actually is denying later on, right? Devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works. And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you, depart from me, ye that work iniquity. What is iniquity? Lawlessness. Anomia. Anomia. A means no or not, and nomia means the law. So, as far as I remember in regards to the research. So, it is those that are without the law, those who deny the law. They might proclaim Yeshua, but they deny the law of Jehovah. It's not the Roman law of the Antichrist. But anyway, the condition of without law, because ignorant of it, because of violating, contempt and violation of law, iniquity, wickedness, illegality. That is violation of law, you that are without the law. Anyway, so it's of course a problem. Anyway. And of course, the first and highest commandment is to love God with all your heart and all your being and all your soul and all your strength and all that. So if Yeshua is God Almighty, that's a commandment to love Him. Okay, so anyway, and they strive to be righteous as those who expect to behold the Messiah and to receive from Him with the great glory and promises made concerning them. And as for their words and their precepts, O King, and their glorying in their worship, and the hope of earning according to the work. Oh, we have the work. Oh, there's something in regards to work. Isn't that interesting? Also Yeshua says it's multiple times in the book of Revelation, right? I will give according to each of your works, something like that. But, you can go and read the book of Revelation. I can't remember it word for word. But in regards of, so there seems to be something in regards of works, as well, For of each one of them the recompense which they look for in another world. You may learn about these from their writings, You may learn about these from their writings, not our writings, but their writings. So I don't know if he doesn't consider himself, I don't know what is going on. But anyway, it is enough for us to have shortly informed your majesty concerning the conduct and the truth of the Christians. For great indeed and wonderful is that doctrine to him who will search into it and reflect upon it. And verily, this is a new people, and there is something divine, literally a divine admixture in the midst of them. Okay, what is that? A state of impairing the quality or reducing the value, alloy, and beyond. The act of mixing together. Okay, admixture. Yeah, that seems more reasonable. So admixture in the midst of them, and of course they have the Holy Spirit, right? We have the Holy Spirit, and the Spirit is that's the rebirth, So, we are reborn by the Spirit, in regards of all this. So, it was his disciples that baptized in water. He said is still in the future in regards of being restored, but he will be there. Yeshua said he would be there, so he will be there. Did he need to go down the cross and get the so-called Eucharist bullshit and all that, or be baptized or whatever? No. What did he need to do? He repented and believed that Yeshua was who he was, and thereby Yeshua tells him, "You shall be with me in paradise."